Very pleased to welcome Dr. Krishna Sankaran, partner at EY Switzerland and founder of Radical Innovations Group in Finland, one of the leading tech companies. Thank you very much for being with us. You are based in Switzerland, where the ESG and all this, and you're very much also connected to technology. Would you please tell us, and you are present now here in Oman, would you please tell us the interconnection and similarities and the shared practices, and what can we learn from each other, the MENA region and Europe?
So I think, Europe in general, when you look at the sustainability angle, is predominantly leading the space with all the dimensions related to regulations and the policies. Of course, also in the technology angle, they are playing a much stronger role. I think the MENA region is still getting warmed up to the concept around sustainability and ESG. The regulations are getting slowly, warmed up. So I think there's a lot to cover in terms of terrain here.
But generating top-notch world-class ESG reports didn't really prevent a collapse in California or in Switzerland and other countries. So what is the formula? How can we develop or take ESG to the next level in order not to have collapses like what happened in Switzerland or what happened in the Silicon Bank?
So I think if you look at any buzzwords like ESG, sustainability, and all those things, again, these are my personal opinion and I don't want to represent the opinion of my firm or anything. I think there is a risk of abusing them rather than using them.
Yes.
So I think...
very big words.
I think the words related to sustainability, ESG, all those things are, have to be carefully managed. And it has to be brought up to the leadership and the strategic level. Most of the time, what happens is there is a risk of, falling into the greenwashing mode.
Yes.
Rather than making it more strategic and core to the organization. I think that's a leadership challenge.
Leadership as the government?
No, I think
or the board
on multiple levels. Leadership on a regional level, it is the government and the policy makers.
Yes.
Leadership on a company level, it is the board of directors and the C-suite level. And leadership on an operational level is the people who are actually implementing it.
So you think there is a need for another layer of security, correct, and safety to prevent collapses within the ESG framework. Can we say about including due diligence, for example, or something like that?
I think the governance dimension on the ESG, so we mostly focus on the E and very less on S.
Yes, and G.
even less on governance side.
Yes.
So I think the governance side is where all the due diligence aspect and the security aspect and all the aspects around risk mitigation has to come into place.
Yes.
If you would have listened to my talk today in the morning, I think one of the main challenges is putting a structure around it and making it more systematic is a very important thing.
Indeed.
And one of the biggest challenges I find, again, personal opinion, is how do you systematically bring ESG as a core strategic and leadership challenge? The moment you make that happen and bring a sense of necessity and urgency, I think you have succeeded in crossing the most important part of the puzzle. I think that is the most important thing here.
All right. Technology, interconnection between technology and ESG. You're being a founder of a tech top Finnish company, basically. How can we develop that? So again, because usually ESG is mostly connected primarily to the finance world. All right. What do you say to the tech companies in the Middle East in particular?
I think it will be really a mistake to say that ESG is mostly in the financial sector, although financial sector is making a lot of noise around it because of all the sustainable finance dimension of it.
Indeed.
But I think it is pretty much everybody's business. For example, if you leave quality or customer service to somebody or some department, you can forget about customer service or quality.
Absolutely.
It's a responsibility of everybody, right from a receptionist to the person cleaning the floor to the person who is on the board of directors or the CEO. So same way, sustainability is an important aspect of every business, every industry. technology angle, in my opinion, is going to be a very critical aspect, because the way you see it, it goes beyond the boundaries of a particular organization. If you want to look at it from the point of view of the complete value chain, you cannot do it without the right technology into the place. A technology is giving you the framework and the whole tools behind it.
Yes.
But the data is very critical as well. So it's the role of what a technology and what is the role of data, and how do you bring them together?
People are getting data, but the problem to analyze the data, and this is the challenge that we have in the Middle East.
I think that the data is a double-edged sword. There is one side of the problem is there is a lack of data.
Yeah.
And that is a very important challenge to overcome. For example, scope 3, scope 2 levels, scope 3 mainly. But the other dimension is over supply of data.
Yes, this is what we are suffering in the Middle East, because many companies have the financial means and capabilities to get the best data.
Yeah, so that was the main focus of my talk today, is to look into data more critically. Is how do you really look at the nuggets compared to the fool's gold? There's a whole much amount of information.
Yeah.
And the second aspect is also the tools and framework. If you take the ESG framework, there are at least 5-6 frameworks, which probably is kind of confusing many people.
Yes.
Which framework
is cool.
Yeah.
Which is right. Startups, as you know, the collapse of the Silicon Bank would have or will have a great impact across the world, perhaps. What do you say to the startups or to the ecosystem in the MENA region?
I think the word startup
for the quake not to hit the ecosystem in the Middle East.
See, I think the word startup has to be properly gauged or properly understood, because in my opinion, the moment you have somebody else's money and you need to manage that, and run a business, it could go in multiple ways wrong, and you need a proper governance around it. I think in my world of what a startup is, you take an idea to action using a funding that you probably have difficulty in getting, and then transforming it into a meaningful product so that somebody is ready to buy, right? So I think for a startup ecosystem like they have in the US, I think the rules of the games are very different, and the multiples what they're looking is also very different. So the greed is different, so the greed translates into risk quite a lot. But I think in the MENA region, I think the government is taking calculated, at the same time, meaningful approach to support the right kind of startup ecosystem. I think
So you think that we are immune in the Middle East?
I think immune is a wrong word, but at least there is a lot of governance, that can come into play compared to what is lacking in the rest of the world.
Are we having? Do you think that there is a potential to rephrase the startup term back to SMEs?
I think that's the mindset, right? So if you take a startup cannot be a startup forever, right? So I think they have to translate into a small and medium scale enterprise or a bigger organizational setup. So I think, in my opinion, the word has to be properly gauged. That's why I said that if you have easy cash that some investor is giving, and you need to make sure that you want to spend that money in a meaningful way, a lot of governance aspect has to come into play, not only within the organization, but also in the funding dimension. But I think in the MENA region, I don't think that's an issue. I think there is a lot of potential for properly gauged approach to succeed.
So back to the startup ecosystem, taking into account what's going on in the US and all that, and you coming from Zurich, what is your recommendation to the startup ecosystem in the MENA region?
So I think one of the things I personally think is the dimension of startup has evolved so much so that it's quite scary at some times, because people take risk based on funds that are being given to them. When I started the company, Radical Innovations Group, which became an SME over a period of time, it's all about bootstrapping. It's also all about funding the
It's not
initiative.
a term that we have ever heard in the Middle East, by
Yeah.
the way. We don't use this term. Would
Yeah.
you please explain it more?
So bootstrapping is a concept that is an age-old concept that you fund based on the funds that you are able to collect either from your own investments
Yes?
or from the family and friends that you pull up, and,
Yes.
and people who trust you give those money to
Yes.
you, or you take your own funds and put into it. So that is where people take calculated risk. I think that has been completely changed today to a point where you take risk on somebody else's money,
Yes.
which is might not be your own or your friends and families, but somebody who might you not see at all.
Yes.
So that's a dimension of risk taking, which is, in my opinion, a bit scary if you are not having the right
Which
set
is
of
very common in the Middle East. We have lots of basically funding opportunities and all that.
So that's where the government and the funding ecosystem has to put the governance into place, because when you put money easily into an ecosystem and ask them to use the money wisely, it could go either way. I think taking a calculated risk as a person who have done it myself, I think it's very important, because you have to answer to every single dollar or every single euro that you invest in, and you don't make things just because you believe that it's a good idea. So I think calculated risk, having a startup mindset based on bootstrapping will help ecosystems to evolve in a more natural and calculated way.
Thank you.